Welcome to the Tavern Between Dimensions, a monthly tabletop RPG podcast. My name is Carl Dudish, and I shall be your bartender for your time here today. Joining me for service, as always, is the Dungeon Master to the Explorers of Elsewhere, Dan Tyree.
Hello!
And the man who temped for one of Santa's reindeers because he was on the naughty list, Anton Bain.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yes, Merry Christmas. Welcome to our December episode. The snow is falling gently outside the tavern, and we have all the drinks that will keep you warm and refreshed during your time here. Going to be a magical season here at the tavern. We have many wonderful things to talk about, and while we may not have presents for each other, I'm so sorry, guys, we didn't plan that well in advance.
Budget cuts.
Budget cuts, it's terrible.
Yeah.
You lot can give us a present. If you just hit the like button and subscribe, we'd very much appreciate it.
Yeah.
So with that, let's move into our first topic. So, Dan,
Yes.
I've been trying to set up a campaign, Explorers of Elsewhere, we finished our campaign. There doesn't appear to be anything in the pipeline at the moment, so I was trying to set something up. But I came across one class I really didn't like the look of, and I was trying to change it, but I kept hitting this brick wall as I'm not really sure how to homebrew. I was wondering, as a Christmas gift, will you teach us how do we homebrew campaigns?
Why, of course, little Timmy, take a seat.
Oh, God bless everyone, sir.
Homebrewing, yeah. I mean, it's a thing, isn't it? It's definitely a thing. I think
Don't do.
I genuinely think I hold the belief that pretty much every single tabletop RPG group that has ever sat down has wittingly or unwittingly homebrewed.
Yeah. I mean, given my intro there, I did lie I have homebrewed, so...
But it's a good question, and it's a good thing to bring up because what is homebrewing? Because there's just so many kind of different levels of homebrewing within a campaign, right? I mean, yeah, well, just to give you all the answers, even from just deciding that a rule or whatever in the rule book, it won't apply to this table, all the way to designing kind of new classes, new races, new
Monsters,
worlds, just new everything, completely brand new off the cuff. I think, as in the case of most things, there's good homebrew, and then there's not as good homebrew.
I think, Dan, in the Explorers of Elsewhere campaign, there's only one rule that's actually been homebrewed. I believe so, and that's the counterspell rule.
Well, okay, so here's it. Yeah, I mean that is 100%. So we've all discussed how we don't think counterspell is a particularly fun spell. Yeah, so we came up with the idea that you always roll to see if you can counterspell. So at least there's some chance that it might not work, and obviously that that changes the rule both for the DM and the players. But you say that there were a lot of homebrew rules that I chucked into the Cormier campaign, and that I'll be chucking into future campaigns.
Yeah, I remember there was more than just the counter spell.
Yeah, so
give us some examples.
Well, you could probably go back through the Cormier campaign and count the number of times where someone's gone, "I'm gonna do a roll," and then do a real bad roll, and then go, "Oh," and then they'll look at that bad roll and then go, "Oh, I've got inspiration," right? So and then I've just kind of allowed it, and you're supposed to declare you're going to use your inspiration to get advantage before you make the roll, but in the heat of the moment, I feel a lot of the time it gets forgotten, and you only ever remember you can re-roll after you've ballsed up the first one. So so that's a tiny house rule where inspiration is just a re-roll as opposed to a token to advantage, and that's relatively minor, but I would argue it feels good. We also changed the help action.
That's right. Yeah, we did, didn't we? Yeah.
So it used to be the case, game rules was written. Fundamentally, anyone can come up and say, "I'm gonna use my action to help you," and strength 8 wizard helps strength 20 fighter lift a boulder.
They get advantage.
And they get advantage. Whereas for us, we did the whole I made it a risk reward thing. So it was generally speaking you had to take a DC 10 check based on the thing that you wanted to do, and
could help.
If you passed it, then there was advantage. If you failed it, then there was disadvantage. The idea being, there's like too many cooks in the kitchen, kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, help or hinder.
That's all good.
Yeah.
I'm actually wrong when I said there's only one rule. Well, first because you mentioned those ones, but we actually homebrewed my character.
Yeah.
And I forgot about it.
Yeah.
Your character's the literal definition of a homebrew. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is it. This is about, when we say there's loads of different types of homebrew. I mean, we just chucked out 3 homebrew rules. I suppose in terms of Balthazar, there were some bits that added in for homebrew. The fact that you weren't an Eberron Warforged, you were a Cormier Warforged, so things like the Aegis and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, right, the Aegis ability.
Right.
And also we discreetly changed his armor proficiencies.
Yes.
Because originally Balthazar, I put him as a dex build, at 14 dexterity plus medium armor, so he had like 16, 17 AC, whatever. And then you were like, and then I were like, this doesn't really make sense. Can't we just give him heavy armor proficiency and then he's strength based? And then we were like, yeah, that's way better.
We just changed it around. I mean, so I guess it kind of brings us to that whole question of like, why would you homebrew? So for like Balthazar going, you know what, let's just give him heavy armor proficiency so he can go strength rather than dex.
Yeah.
Because if nothing else, having a reason to not max out dex is a great thing. But yeah, you're right. It just felt better when you looked at this hulking 9-foot slab of metal and log.
I think that's mostly the case for homebrews. Yeah.
Well, I think just mentioning it there, it's the case is it's because it felt better, and
yes,
we homebrew because something isn't working, and it's we either bash our head against the brick wall and keep it not working, or we change it to make it fun again.
Yeah, I mean, like Julia playing Badger, like Julia was really kind of taken by the 4 elements monk, and
it's quite notoriously underpowered, isn't it?
On paper, it sounds great, and if you've watched something like Avatar: The Last Airbender, of course you're going to be like, I'm going to be like hang, and it's going to be so cool, and then suddenly you play the class and it goes off like a wet fart.
It was a shame because the flavor of the 4 elements monk is fantastic, but the implementation of it kind of leaves it feeling a bit lacking. So I went through it with Julia and we found a homebrew revision. So the one we settled on in particular was by a Reddit user by the name of Spike-Tail Drake, and which will pop down in the description. But that just kind of overhauled the whole subclass and just kind of made it fun. And I don't think at any point anyone would have looked at what Badger was doing and gone, that's just broken.
I didn't actually even know it, but she was playing a homebrew.
Yeah, it felt nice, and Badger felt like a monk who was attuned to the various elements and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's spot on. Like, you do it to make things feel better, or you might homebrew to make things
more exciting.
More exciting. Yeah.
Like the counter spell. It's mostly because now you roll, and that roll is quite pivotal, so it's more exciting.
It becomes risk reward, which in itself can be quite exciting, quite nerve wracking. Where it's like, is it going to work? Is it going to work? And when it does work, it feels so much more rewarding. And if it goes wrong, suddenly those stakes have just dramatically increased.
Yeah. And I think 2 of the psychic characters in the campaign were also homebrewed.
Yeah.
So we had
my character's dog Drool. He was a homebrew. I think in lieu of a feat, I got Drool to fit the sort of concept I had.
And so for that, we just kind of borrowed the ranger animal, like bestial spirit animal companion type thing from memory. So Drool leveled up with you like a ranger's companion.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
So like not the base version of the ranger, right?
From memory, it was the new and improved Tasha's like bestial spirit, the one that
because he gained hit points, right?
Yeah.
Although, what else did he gain?
He basically would always go up with proficiency. So only when a proficiency increased, he then got major stuff. And obviously his hit dice was equal to Catcher, which means they were both always on the same HP, because we took the average rather than obviously rolled for our HP. And obviously his knockdown ability, which most dogs get anyway, increase with levels, because obviously it went up with proficiency as well. So he didn't have many big increases, but whenever we gained a proficiency increase, that's when draw became more effective.
And then the other being Emily, so Hiram's squire. So being having the knight background gave Hiram a squire, which like on paper should be like a background feature. As the story went on, it kind of made sense that if you're a knight with a squire, you'd be teaching the squire out in the field, especially if you're not milling about a castle or a stately home or whatever.
Plus, we all imprinted on Emily anyway, so...
Yes, exactly, yeah. As soon as Emily adopted the Wednesday Addams persona, everyone fell in love. But then, so that weirdly just kind of started off as a... Like, how do you represent a 12-year-old half-orc girl running around when people are flinging fireballs and lightning bolts? And that's an interesting one, because that was actually a sort of a homebrew that became main brew, in so much as Emily eventually evolved into a psychic from like Natasha's book. But those two inclusions were to help develop the character concept, right? Because like Draw was kind of a big part of Katya, Emily was a big part of Hiram, and like their identities. So it would be a shame if as a player, you went to your DM or GM and said, I've got this really fantastic idea here, let me spell it out to you, and then the DM or GM turns around and goes, no, it's not in the rulebook, no,
it's not rules are written.
It's just like,
I do like my rules are written, and I will, I like to keep it straight, but I must say those additions were very, very good.
As long as you do it in a kind of balanced act, like if you've got someone rocking up and going, I'm a level 1 rogue, can I have a vorpal sword please? Like, no no, like, my hands are chainsaws. Like, no, stop.
Although
I think we've just figured out what Anton's next character is going to be.
There you go. What about baddies, Dan?
Well, yeah, so the next kind of level of homebrew, I guess, was just creating new stuff, right? So a lot of the magic items in the game that you lot had were homebrewed. I know you said baddies, but just thinking about brand new stuff. And I did that because I have a personal crusade against +1 magic swords.
Yeah, you do.
Because I think for something that is as special as a magic item, there is nothing as tediously boring as a +1 magic sword. Like, what? You wouldn't even remember you've got it, like, because you're just looking at the stat at that point. And like, so I made a point of kind of going, right, pretty much all of the magic items you lot had, they were in inverted commas tailored for the characters, but they were all designed to give the players more lateral choice.
What did the Hiram's sword, so our paladin's sword, do?
Orbin, you mean?
The silver sword, sorry.
The silver sword. I mean, so that was a relatively easy one. It was a long sword.
Yeah.
That was silvered, obviously.
Yeah.
Whereas a long sword is normally D8, D10, but D10 if you hold it in two hands. Argentus was 2D6 if you hold it in two hands.
Oh, okay.
So it was basically a one-handed greatsword. So it gave Tilda the option of using a shield if Hiram wanted to use a shield and still have this sword, or just keep it as a greatsword. And like, that was cool. It. Like, it's in the grand scheme of things, Hiram went from using a greatsword to a longsword that did 2d6 damage. Like,
fundamentally, you created the 3rd edition bastard sword, didn't you?
In effect, yeah. And it's just like that, that's a very inoffensive homebrew. Yeah, in terms of baddies, quite a few of the monsters got changed up.
You did change them. I was wondering, because this is stuff we didn't get to see right during the campaign.
Yeah.
Like, monsters, fight, and then behind you were like, aha, I made it this way.
I mean, yeah, I guess when it comes to homebrewing monsters, you can, again, there's a scale, right? You could just kind of go, this troll is actually immune to fire rather than
Mhm.
vulnerable to it. And when it gets hit with a fire attack, it gains a fire breath attack. Like, yeah, you could do small changes like that. It still amounts to a big surprise at the table, all the way up to completely brand new monsters that usually seem to be more terrifying than whatever wizards come out with, right?
For instance, if you remember the Final Fantasy game that we played,
Mm.
the choosing things like the summons were way beyond your power level. I had to completely rebuild the summons at your power level to be their aspects. So that was a whole homebrewed monster where I looked at the big one and went, no, and made these smaller ones, and they were pretty fun. I think you guys fought them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like tailoring monsters is pretty easy. So like the final fight, I allow big old undead mind flayer elder brain lich.
Pick a lane, Dan.
I suppose it's not really a homebrew as such, but that was I kind of took the idea of the templates from the monster manual and just took the elder brain stat block and the lich stat block and just kind of mushed them
Oh, right.
together.
Okay.
And then kind of picked the stuff that seemed appropriate. And like, I knew in my head it was going to be a 2-stage fight. So it was like, oh, let's have some legendary actions for the first stage. Let's have some legendary actions for the second stage, and so on and so forth. But yeah, just matching things together. If you want, like, when I say templates from the monster manual, when you look at the Shadow Dragon entry in the monster manual, it's just a template. It presents you, the stat block it presents you is a young, it's like an adult red shadow dragon, where it's just gone, here's the shadow template, it makes everything necrotic. Just whack it on one of the existing stat blocks, and that's kind of it. Like, that could constitute a homebrew, So I find that when it, like, whilst it's good to play things out the book sometimes, just for that kind of sense of familiarity, you can really spice things up and keep things exciting by homebrewing.
I think that's the word. The word is exciting.
Yeah.
If the homebrew does that, then by all means do it. If you're kind of changing things just for the sake of it, I'm like, what's the point?
It's to keep yourself from, as I said earlier, it's to keep yourself from getting frustrated and to make sure that everyone is having fun around the table, and to keep the things that aren't working and applying a plaster to them and hoping that they do work. And the good thing with home brews is if it doesn't work the first time, you can change it until you get something that does work.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, while you can change it, I feel it's worth being careful when you go to implement homebrew, just to make sure that everyone's going to enjoy the change. Like, I suppose if you were to, a good litmus test is if I was sat at a table and the DM or GM dropped this on me, what noise would I make? Yeah, I guess as long as it's fun. I think if it's appropriate to the story that's trying to be told, and everyone's on board with that story, that plot line, I think you'll be all right a lot of the time. And I think a common criticism of homebrew is that it's going to upset the balance and everything's going to go skew. But we've already discussed in previous episodes that there's no balance in a role-playing game. Like, it's almost a farmer to a role-playing game. So yeah, just embrace it, I reckon.
Yeah, I think the mark is, are you having fun or are you not? I think it's the only
That's
way.
it.
Yeah, screw balance. Are you having fun? If you are, it works.
I mean, let me flip the tables on you lot. Anton, what would you say is the most egregious application of homebrew you've ever experienced or heard of?
Like, if you start looking on the internet, on the 5e wiki, and you're like, I want to play this subclass, and it's just the most broken thing possible, but you're adamant you must play this class. It's like don't just take something that's 100% homebrew and think it's gonna work perfectly.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with that. That would be the kind of thing that would worry me, especially if you're playing with a new player and they come up with this and you have to curtail that, and they'll be disappointed.
Yeah, that's fair. Carl, have you seen anything that made your nostrils flare?
Yeah, I've seen a few. One where someone was trying to build almost like a half troll, and we're kind of using the old rules from the Revenants back in Unearthed Arcana before they kind of became what they are now, when they were a bit more broken, where if you were under half health, you would always regain 1 HP.
Yeah.
And that means unless a monster took you out completely, you would always get up with 1 HP, always. So basically, you were undying, and it was. But they'd taken that and they'd given it 5 HP. So fundamentally, it became completely broken. But they did try to balance it with the whole fire and poison. So I guess it kind of was like. But it was still, when you think about it, rules as written, that means you're always going to have 5 HP up to your half health. So if you only have like 20 health, the moment you get down to 10, bam, you're back up to 15. Then bam, you're back up to... It was just insane. But I get where they were coming from, but those Revenant rules were busted back when they wrote them.
Yeah, I guess, the first stop when it comes to things like homebrew is looking at stuff and thinking, is there anything I can reskin? So... I guess, yes, referring back to Balthazar, the whole Balthazar was actually a halfling that's full metal alchemist into a golem form. Like, don't know
what you mean.
But we just took the rules for Reborn from Richton's Guide to Ravenloft. And that's where things like Memories from a Previous Life came from. Exactly. Like, if you find something that you look at it mechanically and go, oh, that just makes sense, then it still counts as homebrew, but at least it's not gonna, hopefully it won't be too out there. I guess the most important bit is just, if you're going to introduce something new to the table, just make sure that everyone's on board with it. If you're a player, don't rock up with your half troll, half angel, half Balor. Oh, this is, it's a new class that gets...
We're wielding a lightsaber.
Yeah. Like, I would be wary of reaching the table without getting approval.
I need to go destroy a character sheet.
But at the same time, if you're the DM or GM, rocking up with a half troll, half angel, half Balor with lightsabers for fingers, and then just expecting the players to be cool with it. Just common courtesy, just communicate.
Thanks for watching. Release segments like this from the Tavern Between Dimensions every Friday here on the Explorers of Elsewhere channel. Otherwise, if you want to listen to the episode in full, you can check us out on Spotify and Amazon Music.